for Audiobooks presents 1984 by George Orwell. Close your eyes and imagine the most oppressive world possible, a world where your every movement is watched, your every word recorded, your very thoughts policed, a world where history changes daily to suit those in power, where war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. This is the nightmare reality George Orwell envisioned in his prophetic masterpiece, 1984. Today, we're going to fully immerse ourselves in this terrifying dystopia. We'll follow Winston Smith's harrowing journey of rebellion and defeat, uncover the sinister mechanisms of Oceania's totalitarian regime, and discover why this novel, written in 1949, feels more relevant today than ever before in our age of surveillance capitalism, fake news, and algorithmic manipulation. This will be the most comprehensive exploration of 1984 you'll find anywhere. By the time we finish, you'll understand exactly why Orwell's warning continues to haunt our collective imagination nearly 75 years after its publication.
Chapter 1. The World of Oceania. Our story begins in Airstrip 1, formerly known as Britain, now just a province of the vast superstate Oceania. The year is 1984, or at least that's what the party claims. In truth, no one really knows what year it is anymore. History has been rewritten so many times that even the concept of objective truth has been erased. Meet Winston Smith, our 39-year-old protagonist. Winston isn't a hero in the traditional sense. He's not particularly strong or brave. He's just an ordinary man working a mundane job at the Ministry of Truth. But here's the horrifying reality. Winston's job isn't to record truth, but to constantly alter it. Every day, he rewrites newspaper articles, edits historical records, and erases people from existence when they fall out of favor with the party. Documents are fed into the memory hole, a fiery incinerator that consumes inconvenient truths. The world Winston inhabits is one of constant surveillance. Telescreens, devices that both broadcast propaganda and monitor citizens, are everywhere. Even the slightest facial expression of dissent could land you in the hands of the thought police. Children are trained from birth to report their own parents for thought crime. Neighbors inform on neighbors. The air is thick with fear and paranoia. The party maintains control through three brilliant yet terrifying psychological mechanisms. First, the constant state of war against either Eurasia or East Asia. The enemy changes without explanation. Second, the systematic destruction of language through Newspeak, a simplified version of English designed to make rebellious thoughts impossible. And third, the doctrine of doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously and accept both of them. Winston's life is a waking nightmare of cognitive dissonance. He knows the party lies, yet he helps propagate those lies. He remembers a time before the revolution, yet he's expected to believe the party has always ruled. This psychological torture manifests in his recurring dream of the Golden Country, a pastoral landscape representing the freedom and truth that have been stolen from humanity. Chapter 2. The Spark of Rebellion. Despite the ever-present threat of vaporization, the party's term for complete erasure of a person, Winston begins a dangerous act of defiance. He purchases an old-fashioned paper notebook from a prole shop and starts keeping a diary. This simple act is revolutionary in a world where private thoughts are forbidden. As Winston writes, we see his internal struggle laid bare. He hates the party with every fiber of his being, yet he's trapped in the system. He remembers fragments of his childhood before the revolution, particularly his mother's disappearance, but these memories are fuzzy, unreliable. The party has worked tirelessly to sever people from their past. One day at work, Winston notices a dark-haired girl from the fiction department watching him. His immediate assumption is that she's a party spy. After all, in Oceania, Any unusual attention could mean you're about to be arrested. But then something extraordinary happens. The girl, whose name we'll learn as Julia, slips Winston a note that simply says, "I love you." This single act of human connection in their dehumanized world sets in motion a chain of events that will change Winston forever. They arrange a secret meeting in the countryside, far from the prying eyes of telescreens. When they finally meet alone, Julia reveals herself to be nothing like Winston expected. She's not some ideological revolutionary. She's a pragmatic hedonist who has been secretly breaking party rules for years. Their relationship blossoms in stolen moments. Julia teaches Winston how to move through the city unnoticed, how to acquire black market goods like real coffee and chocolate. They find sanctuary in a sanctuary in an unlikely place, a room above an antique shop run by an old man named Mr. Charrington. This room, with its antique furnishings and, crucially, no telescreen, becomes their private oasis in the totalitarian desert. Winston becomes obsessed with the glass paperweight he buys from Charrington. To him, it represents the fragile beauty of the past, a world before the party, a world of truth and freedom. The coral inside seems suspended in time, just as Winston wishes he could suspend this perfect moment with Julia forever. Chapter 3. The Illusion of Freedom. As Winston and Julia's relationship deepens, Winston becomes increasingly reckless. He wants more than just secret trysts. He wants actual revolution. This brings him into contact with O'Brien, an inner party member Winston suspects might be part of the Brotherhood, the underground resistance led by the legendary Emmanuel Goldstein. In a shocking turn, O'Brien invites Winston to his home and gives him a copy of Goldstein's forbidden book, The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism. This book explains the true nature of power in Oceania. It reveals that the perpetual war is likely fake, maintained only to consume resources and keep the population in line. It explains how the party maintains power, not for any ideological reason, but simply for power's sake. The most chilling revelation? The party doesn't just want obedience. It wants genuine love for Big Brother. As O'Brien later explains, "We are not content with negative obedience. When finally you surrender to us, it must be of your own free will." But just as Winston begins to believe he's found allies in the fight against the party, the hammer falls. One evening, as he and Julia lie together in their secret room, a voice from behind a hidden panel announces, "You are the dead." The room had a telescreen after all. Mr. Charrington was a thought police agent the entire time. Their sanctuary was a trap. Chapter 4. The Destruction of the Self. What follows is perhaps the most harrowing depiction of psychological torture in literary history. Winston is taken to the Ministry of Love, a place where love means pain and truth means obedience. His interrogator? None other than O'Brien, who was never a rebel at all, but the party's most loyal enforcer. O'Brien systematically breaks Winston down over months of torture. He explains the party's ultimate goal. Power is not a means, it is an end. The object of power is power. Winston is forced to confront his deepest fears, to betray everything he holds dear, until finally he's brought to room 101, the place where everyone meets their worst nightmare. For Winston, that nightmare is rats. O'Brien straps a cage of starved rats to Winston's face, and in that moment of absolute terror, Winston does the unthinkable. He betrays Julia, screaming, "Do it to her, not me." This is the moment the party has been waiting for. They've finally broken the last human connection that made Winston who he was. The novel's final pages show us a hollowed-out Winston, sitting in the Chestnut Tree Cafe, drinking Victory Gin. When he sees Julia again, there's no spark of recognition, no shared memory of their rebellion. They've both been thoroughly broken. The book ends with Winston looking up at a poster of Big Brother, finally feeling what the party wanted him to feel all along. He loved Big Brother.
Orwell's masterpiece endures because it speaks to our deepest fears about power, control, and the fragility of truth. In our age of deepfakes, algorithmic manipulation, and mass surveillance, 1984 feels less like fiction and more like a field manual for understanding modern authoritarianism. But here's the crucial difference between Winston's world and ours. We still have the ability to question, to resist, to remember. The party won in Oceania, but our story is still being written. The question is, what kind of ending will we choose?
If this deep dive into 1984 made you think, shocked you, or gave you a new perspective, let me know in the comments. What parallels do you see between Orwell's nightmare and our world today? And if you want more content like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, remember, in a world of manufactured consent, independent thought is the most revolutionary act of all.